Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking the profound and honestly pretty heavy emotional weight of Rabindranath Tagore's incredibly moving short story, The Homecoming. We're going to look closely at the journey of a young boy who gets completely caught between the wild, untamed freedom of his youth and the incredibly suffocating expectations of the adult world.
Okay, let's jump right into this by asking you to just take a second and think back. Do you remember that incredibly uncomfortable phase of early puberty? We've all been there, right? That time where you felt completely misunderstood, like you were somehow too big for your clothes, too loud for the room, and just totally out of place no matter where you stood. It's such a universal feeling, but I've got to say, it is rarely captured with this kind of devastating precision.
And Tagore really hits the nail on the head here. He doesn't sugarcoat it at all. He writes that, at 14, a boy is basically neither ornamental nor useful. If he talks childishly, people treat him like a baby. If he tries to talk like an adult, suddenly he's being impertinent. This brilliantly sets the stage for our protagonist, Phatik, who literally embodies every single ounce of this awkward, agonizing transition.
Part 1. The Genius of Tagore. Before we trace Phatik's tragic journey, let's just briefly talk about the mind behind the story. Rabindranath Tagore, who actually won the Nobel Prize in Literature back in 1913, used his absolutely incredible observational skills to explore these huge, universal themes of adolescence, neglect, and isolation. He's not just telling a simple story about a boy. He pierces the reader's heart with a depiction of homesickness that feels so real and so deeply grounded in human psychology.
Section 2. Mischief in the Village.
So when we first meet Phatik, he is a powerful, totally free-spirited village boy. He's the undisputed ringleader. He rules over the broad riverbanks and the glorious meadows like a young despot. We get to see this perfectly when he masterminds a prank to roll away a heavy log, only to have his younger, supposedly good brother Makon sit right on top of it. Naturally, Phatik's authority gets challenged, total chaos ensues, and, of course, Phatik gets all the blame. He is constantly at odds with his mother. She harbors this deep, pretty unfair prejudice against him, viewing all his wild energy as a daily nuisance instead of just, normal boyhood exuberance. Then, right in the thick of a massive physical fight with his brother Makon, where Phatik is unjustly blamed and pushed to his absolute breaking point, a stranger suddenly arrives on the scene. It's a middle-aged man with a gray mustache stepping off a boat. We soon learn this is Bishamber, Phatik's mother's long-lost brother, who's just returned from Bombay.
This arrival completely flips the script. Bishamber graciously offers to take Phatik away to Calcutta to be educated alongside his own children. Phatik is absolutely ecstatic. His joy knows no bounds. He practically leaps at the chance, shouting, "Oh yes, uncle!" But the real tragic undercurrent here is his mother's reaction. She is immensely, overwhelmingly relieved to just be rid of him. The adults completely fail to look beneath the surface of Phatik's enthusiasm. They literally only see him as a problem to be relocated, rather than a child who desperately needs guidance and affection.
Which brings us to Section 3. The Calcutta Confinement.
The environmental contrast he experiences is just stark. It's night and day. The wide open spaces, the riverbanks where he could dive and swim whenever he wanted, the meadows where he'd fly his kite, all of that is suddenly stripped away and replaced by the claustrophobic houses and walls of Calcutta. He goes overnight from being a powerful ringleader to being an entirely unwanted, unloved outsider suffocating in a cramped, strange house. And man, the hostility is instant. His aunt views this 14-year-old village lad as a terrible indiscretion on her husband's part. She already has 3 boys of her own and considers Phatik a completely unnecessary addition to her family. Literally before he even unpacks his bags, the stage is totally set for his deep, unwavering isolation.
Moving to Section 4. The Agony of Adolescence.
Tagore paints such a heartbreaking picture of Phatik here. Despite his clumsy exterior, his clothes that are way too short, and his cracking, breaking voice, he actually harbors a silent cry for his mother and a desperate need for recognition. The story notes that, at this exact age, a young lad most craves love, and he'll become the devoted slave of anyone who shows him even a little consideration. But no one dares to openly love Phatik. Instead, with all the constant scolding and chiding, he becomes, as Tagore so beautifully and sadly puts it, very much like a stray dog that has lost his master.
You can basically track his rapid psychological and physical deterioration. His initial excitement is instantly crushed on day 1 by his aunt's rejection. At school, things are just as bad. He's the most backward boy, he gapes in silence, and he is mercilessly caned by teachers while his own cousins mock him. He hits his absolute breaking point when he loses his lesson book. His aunt, rather than showing even an ounce of understanding, just insults him, calling him a great clumsy country lout. Terrified of being a further nuisance and feeling the horrible shivers of malarial fever coming on, he just runs away right into a torrential rainstorm.
But there's this absolutely crucial moment right before that desperate escape. Phatik had previously summoned all his courage to ask his uncle, "Uncle, when can I go home?" And his uncle's answer? Wait till the holidays come. But the holidays wouldn't come until November. This promise of the holidays basically becomes a beacon of hope for Phatik. It's a literal lifeline that he clings to as his situation becomes unbearable, and those words just keep echoing in his mind as his fever takes hold.
And this leads us to Section 5, the final homecoming.
So he runs out into the storm, but he doesn't make it far. He's found by the police, completely drenched to the skin, muddy, and burning up with fever. As two constables physically carry him back to his uncle's house, even in this critical, delirious state, his aunt's only reaction upon seeing him is pure frustration over the inconvenience he's caused. She literally says, "What a heap of trouble this boy has given us." The lack of empathy is truly staggering.
Through his sobs, Phatik actually hears her cruel words and replies, "Uncle, I was just going home, but they dragged me back again." In his feverish state, Phatik's words begin to blur the line between his physical attempt to escape back to the village and his looming tragic departure from this world altogether. His mind starts wandering back to the river steamers of his home, calling out plumbing depths like a sailor as he plumbs an unfathomable sea himself. His uncle, finally realizing the true gravity of the situation, frantically sends for Phatik's mother. She bursts into the room like a whirlwind, tossing and crying out, "Phatik, my darling, my darling!" But tragically, it is just too late. Phatik slowly turns his head, and without even seeing anybody, delivers this absolutely devastating final line, "Mother, the holidays have come." This marks the absolute climax of his tragic arc, finally fulfilling the promise of release he had so desperately waited for. So, what does this all mean? Well, this brings us to the profound double meaning of the story's title. On the surface, the homecoming is his deep longing for the wide-open spaces of his village, the physical place where he truly belonged. But on a much deeper metaphorical level, his desire for peace, for an end to the agonizing feeling of being unwanted, is granted only in death. The holidays he was waiting for turned out to be the ultimate release from worldly suffering. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to really ponder long after we finish today. Tagore wrote this over a century ago, yet the core truth remains so incredibly relevant. Phatik's adults only saw the nuisance. They saw the clumsiness, the trouble. They entirely missed the shy, nervous boy who is desperately craving love and recognition. How often do we make that exact same mistake today? Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible story. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next explainer.